Welcome to the shooting show. This week we're in southwest Scotland on an exciting boar hunt, plus Byron reviews the Heym SR21.
You don't need to go to Germany to hunt wild boar. We've headed to southwest Scotland for some moonlit boar shooting over bait. Byron meets up with hunting operator Steve Sweeting. He is on a harvesting mission to locate a big boar in one of his hunting areas.
Tonight what we're going to do is we're going to be looking for them in a bait area. Probably this is the best way to get free-ranging wild boar in this country. Not using dogs, we're just waiting for them to come into food that they know is there. The other way would be to spot and stalk, but given that they've got such a vast range, they could be here for a week and then the next, move off to the other side of Dumfries and Galloway. Ideally, and as conditions are tonight, we can hunt them under a pretty full moon, and that should give us enough light to be able to do what we want to do.
After getting the quad ready, Steve heads to a feed station where he knows the boar have been active.
We've actually spotted on a couple of occasions when we've been out here at night, we've spotted some fairly big animals running around. There's one in particular that I've got my eyes set on, and I'm hoping that he'll come in, and he's a pretty big boar, and that's what we're really after. We may have a sounder come in of smaller animals, youngsters, females, but the one that I'm really after is a fairly big keiler.
This is a new baiting site for Steve, and he has yet to put up a high seat, so he'll be taking his chances on the ground. He heads to a suitable shooting position among the trees and downwind of the baited area.
We use various things for bait. Anything that gives off a good smell or is appealing to the boar's appetite, which I suppose is pretty much anything really. But all else failing, we'll just get some straightforward pig rolls from a local supplier, and they'll eat those quite happily. We've got ideal conditions tonight, with providing it doesn't cloud over, of course, and we have had some pretty bad weather, but it's just past the full moon. So we should have enough light to see them without using lamps on the rifle. What I'm hoping to do is to get them, if I can get them to come in within maybe 50 yards, that should give me a fairly clear shot.
With the 308 Remington out of its slip and a makeshift shooting rest located, it's time to begin the long wait. After checking for a clear line of sight and making sure the red dot on his Swarovski optic is set to his liking, Steve loads the rifle and settles in. As darkness falls, Steve patiently waits, listening for the faintest noise that could indicate the boar are near. Tonight he is in luck, and a pig comes right in on cue. It looks promising, but is it the right one? The pig's size indicates it's the animal Steve wants. He's looking for a big keiler, and he takes the shot. Wild boar are a dangerous quarry, so Steve tests the eye twitch response to confirm death. You wouldn't want one of these jumping back up at you when your guard was down. With Steve's right-hand man Lyndon arriving on the scene, the gralloch gets underway. Carcass preparation complete, the big boar is extracted with the help of a quad bike.
Well, I'm really happy with tonight. Quite often we have to wait several hours. In fact, they quite often come in maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. But I suppose we waited, what was it, maybe an hour?
Yeah.
And a few of them came in. The one that I was looking for was there. Sadly, the sky clouded over a bit, but just at the right time we got a bit of moonlight. And, well, we were successful. It was a good night.
Of course, no hunt is complete without a surprise, and this time it's a flat tyre. Fortunately, Steve has a pump in the landy and is soon on his way to the larder. It may have been a short hunt this time, but it makes up for the many cold and long vigils Steve usually has to endure. Next time, it might be a different story.
Well, boar hunting done the Dumfriesshire way there, and now the Shooting Show news.
This is the Shooting Show news. Gamekeeping graduates of Scottish colleges are bucking the youth unemployment trend. New figures show that last year, 33 out of 45 North Highland College, Rural University College and Borders College gamekeeping students went straight into employment on sporting estates or into related countryside management jobs. That's another sign of buoyancy from an industry that provides a reported £400 million a year to the Scottish economy. More in the next issue of Modern Gamekeeping. Watch out for rural crime. That's the message from the Country Land and Business Association. The CLA warned landowners to review their security measures, as a combination of long nights and economic uncertainty would lead to a rise in crime figures this winter. It said that some offences, such as theft and fly tipping, were already on the increase. 11 shooters will get government funding for the next 4 years, up from 10 in the 4 years to 2012. Olympic gold medalist Peter Wilson and Commonwealth medalists Steve Scott and Stephen Walton head the list of funded shooters. Also receiving funding up to 2016 is Abby Burton, controversially passed over for Olympic selection but now clearly seen as a prospect for Rio. Head to the UK Sport website for the full list or read it in the March issue of Clay Shooting. Camo fans have got the news they've been waiting for. The latest Realtree patterns have been unveiled. Realtree Extra and Extra Green will be hitting the UK market in the next few months. They aim to create a three-dimensional effect, with foreground, middle ground and background patterns in the same camo finish. Realtree says the patterns bring realism to a new level. And finally, a record 668 rhino were poached in 2012, the South African government has said. This is more than 200 more than in 2011 and double the poaching figure in 2010. Sporting Rifle magazine has announced its intention to step up the fight against rhino poaching and raise thousands of pounds more for Save the Rhino this year. That was the Shooting Show news.
German rifle maker Heim is well known for its big game rifles, but can its bolt-action SR21 model find favour in the UK? Byron finds out.
Today at the range we're going to have a look at a rifle which I've been longing to get my hands on for quite some time. It's the Heym SR21. Now you can see just by taking an overall look at it that it really is a good looking rifle. The stock in particular has some nice sleek lines built into it which really do make it feel nice in the hand. It's not particularly heavy, the checkering feels nice under the fingers, it's got a rosewood tip on it. Unlike a lot of rifles on the market today, the safety catch was actually built into the bolt shroud itself. Although my preferred position is just to the right of the bolt so that your thumb can slide it back and forward, although this is a bit higher up, it works fine. And I have no issues with this safety at all. It works very well, it's solid, I've tested it, and good job by Heim on that. The bolt handle itself looks very pretty. I would have preferred to see just a solid constructed piece of metal here. But, you know, functionally, if you don't bash it and you don't break it, then it actually feels quite nice in the hand. We've got 5 flutes and a running groove on the bottom. It works and cycles very nicely. It's nothing particularly special, but it feels nice and solid in the hand. The locking lugs are a 3-lug design, much in the same way that you would find in a Seiko 75 or a Seiko 85. It has a sprung plunger ejector and a sprung claw extractor. The last thing to say about the bolt is the cocking piece which sticks out the back. Now, functionally, I have no problems with this, but just a little detail for what is otherwise visually a very nice rifle on the outside is that the edge of the metal here is actually very sharp to touch. Now, if I just put the bolt back here, the chamber is empty, we can have a look at the magazine. The magazine is dropped out by this button here. Now, this is the only piece of plastic that's on the rifle. By depressing that, it pops out. Taking a look at the magazine itself, it's a very straightforward design, single stack like you find on a Tikka, except unlike a Tikka, this is completely made of metal. It feels very well made, solidly constructed. It's going to last a lifetime. There isn't a lot else to say about it. The receiver is drilled and tapped and will take most spaces. Then you have your choice of rings on top of that. We put a Swarovski Z6 on it today for testing, and it complements the rifle very nicely. Although you will see when I take the metal away from the wooden stock that it's actually a round action underneath, Heim have gone to the trouble to mill in 2 very nice faces on the outside. It's mainly an aesthetic thing, but it does look very nice. We turn our attention to the port. You will see that it's quite generous in dimensions, and depending on the size of your hands, you can just get your pinky up there to feel if there's a round left in the chamber. Something I always like to do as an extra safety measure, especially if you're shooting at night. Now, if we take a look at the trigger, this is actually a set trigger. Normal operation, bolt down, set trigger, push the trigger forward, that's it set. Of all the rifles that I've had pass through here with set triggers, this is the only rifle that I would say I could probably hunt with the set trigger. All the rest have been so fine that you can barely get away with it on the range, never mind take it out hunting. Now it's time to take the rifle to pieces to show you what's inside. So that's the action screws undone. I've taken the magazine out. Now, the first thing that was quite a surprise to me when I first took this rifle to pieces is that when you pull this out, the trigger guard, magazine well and trigger unit itself comes out as a single assembly, and if you look carefully you'll see the action screws are actually captive. Very nice touch. Our first thing that's immediately obvious is that Heim have gone to the trouble of putting in aluminium pillars. That's great. They've also, as I've already said, gone to the trouble of bedding it. There's spilt resin all the way around it. It's very thin on the back side here. I mean, the most important part of bedding the recoil lug is the area behind the actual recoil lug itself, and it's very thin here. There's uneven edges all around it. Otherwise, it's very nicely and cleanly milled out inside. I mean, the barrel is completely free floating. There's no points where it touches at all, and you know, it's a nice stock from start to finish, with the exception of the bedding. As I said before, you'll see it's a round action. That's for ease of machining. Unlike every other rifle that we've done on these reviews, the trigger unit is actually separate from the action when the action screws are removed. The recoil lug, although from the top looks like it might be an integral part of the action, is actually a jammed washer design like you find on a Remington. The only thing that's really left to do now is to put the rifle back together, get it back on the range, and show you what it groups like. Well, that's all the shooting over with today. The Heim has performed pretty much on par with what I thought it would do. We've been returning groups of around the inch, 1¼ inches all day long, and as you've seen, we've been using field conditions. I've been shooting off my row sack. There's been no bench rested rifles here. There were a few things that I was a bit disappointed with the Heim, but overall it really is a very nice rifle. It looks great. If you're looking for a new rifle and you're looking middle of the range, the Heim is definitely worth a look. I don't think you'll be disappointed with what you find.
That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. We're out every Monday, 7:30 PM UK time. This is The Shooting Show.